Hello, ladies and gentlemen, students of history. It is Miss Gooding, and I'm here to talk to you about the Black Death. The Black Death hit Europe and Asia a couple different times throughout history. However, I'm going to focus on the 14th century. And we need to understand that the bubonic plague decimated large populations around parts of the world in between the 1330s and 1350s. There's debate still about the exact origins of the disease, but most scientists believe that it came from the bacteria called Yersinia pestis, which is found in fleas and carried by rodents. And so we know that during this era, medieval era, that sanitation wasn't real great in the cities. Okay, they didn't have anything. They didn't have a way to treat their sewer systems. They didn't have garbage collection, and so the opportunity for rodents to massively reproduce and to help spread this disease was pretty strong. And so the way that it jumped from animals to humans was that fleas would get on humans and bite them, and then the bacteria would enter the human's bloodstream. And after it entered the human's bloodstream, it then became airborne in between humans, and so it was um, incredibly contagious. So the symptoms of the bubonic plague included high fever, gangrene, chills, cramps, seizures, painful swelling of the lymph nodes, and eventual death. Not many people recovered from this disease, and most people died within days. Okay, a very painful death. The spread of the disease was pretty swift as well. It started, they believe, in China, and it traveled along trade routes. And during this time, trade routes were in full swing. You know, people were trading anything from spices and silks and materials and all sorts of goods. And they were trading along these routes and traveling all the way to Europe. And so that is how they believe the plague spread from Asia to Europe. The human costs were pretty significant. The Black Death killed in between about 75 and 200 million people across three different continents. And some estimations are that 30 to 50% of people in Europe died from the Black Death. So understanding the Black Death was difficult for people back in the 14th century simply because they did not have our expertise or knowledge of medicine. And they didn't know how it originated. They didn't know how the disease spread, and they didn't know how to treat the plague. So across the world, people started to struggle to make sense of the pandemic. A lot of people referred to religion. And one example of treatment was a process called flagellation, which was a religious ritual of whipping oneself for penance. Okay, and it grew in popularity to try, as people tried to cure themselves of this plague. And obviously, we know that that doesn't work. But back during this time, they didn't really understand enough in order to um, make the connections. And so this was one process. And you'll be reading in today's lesson, you'll be reading other thoughts and theories that people had during this time about how to treat and prevent the plague. So, the central question that I'm going to have you think about today is, how did people in the 14th century understand the Black Death? And you're going to have a lot of very interesting reading that will help you understand their thought processes about medicine and about disease during this time. Thanks for listening, you guys.